Yes, we shall start a new topic today, stoichiometry. And perhaps you know that we are going to start undergrad online uh, from 20th of September. This is why I'm regularly taking the class. Maybe next class you shall face a quiz exam. Always be prepared.
স্যার স্যার আগের ক্লাসের হচ্ছে ওই যে বায়োসেফটি লেভেল 3 এন্ড বায়োসেফটি লেভেল 4 ওটা বাকি ছিল স্যার।
I see. Okay, we shall take that class later on. Let me introduce a new topic, stoichiometry. This is very important in case of environmental biotechnology. Stoichiometry. Have you heard about this topic before? Is it new topic for you?
ইয়েস স্যার।
Okay. Stoichiometry, how the terminology comes from. Stoichiometry is derived from the Greek word stoicheon, meaning element, and a metron. That means two Greek words. One is stoicheon and another is metron, meaning measure. So measurement of element. What kind of measurement we can understand a bit here. Stoichiometry is a branch of chemistry that deals with relative quantities of reactants and products in chemical reaction. In any chemical reaction, you know, there are some reactants, and after the reaction, some products we can get. So stoichiometry uh, deals with the relative quantities, how much quantity of each reactant you use in the reaction and how much quantity of the products you can get. So it can estimate based on the uh, nature of the compound, like molarity of the compound that are participating in the reaction. In a balanced chemical reaction, the relations among quantities of reactants and products typically from a ratio of whole numbers. For example, in a reaction that form ammonia, exactly one molecule of nitrogen reacts with three molecules of hydrogen to produce uh, uh, two molecules of ammonia. This is a balanced reaction. You see, no other remaining nitrogen, two nitrogen here, two nitrogen, six hydrogen here, six hydrogen. So this is a balanced reaction. But if it is uh, not balanced reaction, in that case, some of the substrates, reactants remain unused. For example, if nitrogen is too much, not two, for example, here two, then one molecule of nitrogen will remain unreacted because would not get the hydrogen for making the ammonia. So stoichiometry gives you this type of quantitative estimation and calculation. Stoichiometry can be used to calculate quantities such as the amount of products in mass, moles, or volume, depending on the compound. Sometimes, you know, gas reaction amount to a gaseous molecule, then the product also will be gas or like that. Can be produced with given reactants and percent yield. So it is very important. Stoichiometric calculation in industrially or any technological plant is very important because based on uh, uh, the efficiency of the reactants, you can get the product. So you have to use appropriate amount of reactants so that no, wastage are generated, uh, the maximum yield you can get. So it is very important in any, environmental biotechnology plant or chemical reaction plant. The percentage of given reactant that is made into the product. Stoichiometry calculations can predict how elements and components diluted in a standard solution react in experimental conditions. Stoichiometry is founded on the laws of conservation of mass. This is very important. Laws of conservation of mass. I guess you know that you possibly during your HSC level college study, you or school, you studied the laws of a law of conservation of mass. That means in the earth, all the materials are constant. Mass is constant. For example, water. Water on the earth's surface is constant. Just one form to another form can be a transferred, but total mass of water cannot be changed. The mass of the reactants equals to the mass of the product. This is very important. So in any chemical reaction it would happen. So stoichiometry, technically, it is the measurement of chemical quantities in a reaction. However, in this course, stoichiometry will usually refer to the use of chemical equation to predict how much of some substance is produced or reacted based on amount of some other substance that is involved in reaction. So why do we care about stoichiometry? Why do we study stoichiometry? This is real chemistry. That is, you will be able to predict how much of some chemical will be produced based on the starting amounts of reactants. Also, you will be able to calculate how many grams of reactants will be needed to produce a given amount of some other chemical. This is very important for industrial processing. Example, if you know how much steel I need, then how many tons of iron and carbon will be needed to produce that quantity of steel. So I mentioned industry, in the industry or commercial plant, practical application, we must calculate, and there is an application of stoichiometry in the environmental biotechnology plant. Example, if you know how many tons of flour, eggs, milk, sugar that I have, then how many cakes could I produce using a given recipe? You want to make the cakes, so you need flour, egg, milk, and sugar. In that case, if you know the recipe of the uh, cake, then you can calculate how much flour, egg, milk, and sugar is needed to, produce how much cake. So if flour is too much, egg is less, then you cannot make, uh, 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 optimum amount of cake. Flour will remain unused or like that. So reaction in stoichiometry. Stoichiometry is often used to balance chemical reaction. Reaction stoichiometry. It is called reaction stoichiometry. For example, the two diatomic gases, hydrogen and oxygen, uh, can combine to form a liquid water. In an exothermic reaction, as described by the following equation. You can see hydrogen and oxygen if makes water, there is no residue, no unused. That means it is a balanced reaction. But you have to here 2 mole of hydrogen, 1 mole of oxygen produce 2 mole of water. So reaction stoichiometry described as the 2:1:2 ratio of hydrogen, oxygen, and water molecules in the above equation. The term stoichiometry is also often used for the molar proportions of elements in stoichiometric compounds, composition stoichiometry. For example, the stoichiometry of hydrogen and oxygen in water is 2:1. Uh, in stoichiometric compound, the molar proportions are whole number. So molar proportions are always whole number, not half. You have to, you know, in the organic chemistry, how can we make the balance of the reaction? So let me give you more details. Stoichiometry in converting unit. Stoichiometry is not only used to balance chemical equations, but also used in conversion or converting from grams to moles or from grams to milliliters. For example, to find the number of moles in 2 grams of sodium chloride, one would do the following. That means 2 gram of sodium chloride means 58.44 gram of sodium chloride per mole. That means 1 mole of sodium is molecular weight is 58.44, of the sodium 23 and chlorine 35.5. So if 2 gram of sodium chloride, that means 0.034 mole of, the uh, 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 that means 2 gram of sodium chloride equal to 0.034 mole of sodium chloride. So you can convert from mole to gram. In the above example, when written out in fraction form, the units of grams form a multiplicate identity, which is equivalent to 1 gram gram per 1 gram. That means with the resulting amount of moles in unit that was needed is shown in the following equation like that. That means 2 gram of sodium chloride. That means if you consider the gram mole 1, and 1 mole sodium chloride is equal to 58.44 grams sodium chloride. So ultimate mole is 0.034 gram, and you can calculate it because if you know that 1 mole of sodium chloride, in gram, if it is 58.44, then obviously you can calculate 2 gram of sodium chloride, how many moles. By using simple mathematics, you can do it by your own way. So stoichiometry is also used to find the right amount of reactants to use in chemical reaction. That means you can calculate the right amount of reactants required for getting the highest amount of the product. An example is shown below using a thermite reaction. This equation shows that 1 mole of aluminum oxide, 1 mole of aluminum oxide, and 2 moles of iron will be produced if 1 mole of iron oxide and 2 moles of aluminum is reacted. So to completely react 85 gram of iron oxide, that means iron, the molecular weight of iron and oxygen. So you can calculate here the how many grams of iron. So you need 28.7 gram of aluminum. So you can calculate how much to use the whole aluminum with this amount of uh, iron oxide. Uh, how many grams of aluminum is required. So this can be easily calculated because you know the molecular weight of iron, molecular weight of oxygen, and then 1 mole ferric oxide is 85 gram because 48 here 16 is molecular weight of oxygen. So 3 multiplied 1648 and rest is iron, 2 molecules of iron. So you can easily get it. So you can calculate how much aluminum, how many grams of aluminum required to use to utilize completely with the iron oxide. So different stoichiometric in competing reaction, you can do it. Often more than one reaction is possible given in the same starting materials. The reactions, sometimes reaction have several steps to produce something. So the reactions may differ in their stoichiometry. For example, the methylation of benzene through a Friedel-Crafts reaction you studied in intermediate using aluminum chloride as catalyst may produce single methylated, this is methylated benzene, that means toluene, doubly methylated or still more methylated products as shown in the following reaction. So benzene, methyl chloride, you can get this one. If you increase the methyl chloride, then you can find the methyl group higher amount in the benzene ring. This is a Friedel-Crafts reaction. In this example, which reaction takes place in controlled in part of the relative concentration of the reactants. That means if you control the amount of methyl chloride, then you can control the product, which product you will get. For example, if the ratio of 1 mole benzene, 1 mole methyl chloride, you will get, the toluene and not dimethyl benzene. That means depending on the supply of the reactants, you can regulate the products. And this is very interesting and important in producing any target product in the chemical reaction plant. So you can regulate it. Similarly, not only the the solid material, even in the gaseous reactions, gas stoichiometry is quantitative relationship between reactants and products in a chemical reaction with reactions that produce gases. Gas stoichiometry applies when the gases produced are assumed to be ideal. That means ideal standard temperature and pressure you have to maintain. And these are very important for the volume of gas you will get. The ideal gas law is used for this calculation often, but not always. The standard temperature and pressure are taken as 0 degrees Celsius and 1 bar and used as the condition for gas stoichiometric calculation. Here you can see uh, gas stoichiometry calculation solved for the unknown volume or mass of the gaseous product or reactants. For example, if you want to calculate the volume of gaseous nitrous oxide produced from the combustion of 100 gram of ammonia um, by the reaction like this one, then we would carry out the following calculation. You can calculate how a mole of how mole of ammonia is needed. How mole of ammonia is needed to produce 100 gram of uh, you know uh, uh, 100 gram of ammonia to get 100 gram of ammonia, how many moles of ammonia you can calculate, and then you can easily make the balance of this reaction, and then you from molar to gaseous form you can convert. And I shall go further details and give you some you know simple mathematics to calculate. For example, if you want to produce a certain amount of nitrous oxide, um, how much ammonia is required or oxygen is required, or in vice versa. So please go through the concept of stoichiometry, and you can get more details in the Wikipedia as well as many other websites of chemistry. What is stoichiometry? How we can calculate the reactants as well as products beforehand to get industrially desired amount of the product. So this is a brief lecture today, and thank you very much. And you can ask some questions.
Sir, do the chemical reactions in nature occur in balanced form, or they occur in balanced or imbalanced form? Either way.
In the nature, uh, chemical reaction often are not in a balanced form, because the supply of reactants uh, usually not balanced in the natural system, but in industrial system, to minimize the waste and to reduce the unused any reactant, uh, balanced form is used, so that uh, highest productivity of any system can be ensured, and it is economically important. But in nature, yes, in some cases, balance form may be happen. But in nature, you cannot control the amount or mole of the reactants always. This is why you cannot guarantee. But for example, in an environmental biotechnological plant, in that case, artificially, when you develop this plant, you have to calculate what are the reactants, and in which proportion you use them, you will get less, almost no. Actually, almost no is impossible in any industrial process, but the least amount of unused any reactant or waste. Thank you. Any more question? Today I shall share with you these slides so that you can in advance go through some of the calculations, very simple calculation, and uh, simple reactions to give you the fundamentals of stoichiometry. And we shall also study the principle of and laws of thermodynamics, are very important in physics, um, and also very important in any chemical reaction, as well as in the practical life. Any question?
স্যার আসসালামু আলাইকুম, জি নাম স্যার।
Walaikum Jinan.
Sir, can stoichiometric method be used in identifying the amount of reactants from the formed products? I mean, after the production of a product,
Yes, it is possible.
not before the production, sir.
Yes, it is possible. It is possible if you get the product and if you know the chemical structure of the product, you can understand how these structures were synthesized, what are the reactants. So you can calculate in the reverse way because the reactants always maintain a certain ratio of molar ratios during the reaction and produce a certain product. So in reverse way, it is possible to calculate.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir, is skeometry is applicable for balanced and imbalanced all kind of chemical reaction?
Yes, stoichiometry actually it is the study of calculating how much each reactant is required to produce a product or one more product, uh, and how much product you will get using uh, how much reactant. So every reactant, the amount you can calculate, every product you can calculate, and in any chemical reaction, it is taken place. And the advantage of prior calculation of the reactants and products give you higher efficiency in the chemical industry or the industrial process because you can in that case maintain the appropriate ratio of the reactants to get the optimum that means highest yield without keeping any unreacted reactant. So it is applicable in any chemical reaction, even chemical reaction taken place in the nature. Nature, huge chemical reaction has taken place. Even our intestine. We often do not calculate the amount of different kinds of foods we are taking, but there are some ratio of different when reaction taken place, different reactants. There is a ratio and produce some new product in the chemical reaction. This is why never take any food too much. Better to have the diversity in your diet, and you see we take different kinds of item in our dish, and obviously lots of reactions are taking place in the intestine, and hydrochloric acid and other enzymes participates to accelerate the reaction, and polymeric substances like protein, carbohydrate, they are break down and become simple uh, product like amino acid or glucose, fructose. They are absorbed by the body, but all others are waste, unreacted, and we excrete them from our body. So this is why it is ideal to take as much as possible diversity in your meal rather than take you feel some food very delicious and you are taking too much and too much will be released from your body. You will get less the uh, uptake for your body. Any question?
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Jahid?
Sir, can stoichiometry be used in quantification of virus or other nanoparticles?
Quantification of
Virus or other nanoparticles? Is there any calculation in stoichiometry like that?
yeah, stoichiometry, RNA is not reactive, but stoichiometry may be used to calculate how many nucleotides are required for making a nucleic acid, a certain sequence of nucleic acid. So in synthetic biology, if you know the uh, if you want to make a known sequence of uh, nucleic acid using the amino acids. So you have to supply the required certain amino acid in the synthetic process. Then you can get the highest desired amount of nucleic acid. If a certain amount nucleic acid is required for your nucleic acid, certain amino acid is required, but if it is missing, then you cannot synthesize the desired RNA or DNA molecule. Um, so even synthetic biology or system biology, you need uh, to calculate or you need to apply stoichiometry because here enzyme is involved as well as reactants are involved. So uh, for example, if you want to make a DNA fragment, you need a nucleotide. That means phosphorus, phosphate. You have to supply. You have to supply base. You have to supply sugar. So, in which ratio you want to supply to make a nucleotide, and then nucleotide make the polymer. So all complex thing you can calculate by stoichiometry, and to design a certain amino acid, a protein with a known sequence, you need to use reactant amino acids. The diversity, the ratio of different amino acids are needed. And for polymerization of amino acids in certain sequence, maybe you require to add condition even enzyme to facilitate, to get the desired protein. Any question?
Sir,
Fatima?
yes, sir. Sir, here stoichiometry is the study of relationship between reactant and products, ratio of reactant and products. So, why it is necessary to study the gas stoichiometry separately? Is there any difference between normal stoichiometry or and gas stoichiometry?
Thank you. In case of gas, we have three form of, matter: gas, liquid, and solid. So in all cases, stoichiometry is applicable. In case of gas stoichiometry, I shall discuss later on. Gas, uh, uh, there are gas, if you need to use the pressure, you need to use some volume. Otherwise, gas will, diffuse, not like liquid. So, gas stoichiometry also requires standard temperature, pressure, and other things. If pressure is increased, then gas volume is increased, or like that. There are some laws. So, in case of gas stoichiometry, we we have to consider the pressure, temperature, as well as the volume. Volume means where the container volume, where you get the product, or even where you put the reactant or like that. So to produce a certain gas, for example, oxygen gas, now it is required high amount for the COVID patient. So from the air contains oxygen gas around 20% or like that. So for the COVID patient, you need a higher amount pure oxygen gas. So there are some technology to extract the oxygen, separate oxygen gas from the atmosphere, or you can make oxygen gas by other reaction. So by any way, you can calculate how the reaction is taken place, and in the condition is very important in case of gas. Not only gas, even in other reaction, temperature and other things. For your easy understanding, I am using the standard temperature, pressure, and others, because temperature, pressure also influence any chemical reaction.
Sir, then the equations will be different from gas stoichiometry.
Equation is similar, but what is important, you have to mention the condition. Condition can
Yes, sir.
change
Yes, sir.
product quantity as well as efficiency of the reaction. In case of
Thank you, sir.
gas, it is very sensitive.
Yes.
Any more question?
Sir, sir, I have a little bit weird question. So the law of conservation of mass states that the mass of a substance is constant. So my question is, the mass of DNA at the starting of the life and now, is it constant or
This is
not?
an interesting question, not a weird question, but it is very interesting question. And this is a very valuable question. Mass of DNA is not constant. Mass of DNA is not constant. Uh, but, nitrogen, phosphorus, oxygen used in synthesis of DNA, all are constant. For example, oxygen is constant. Nitrogen, all over the world, total nitrogen is constant. But it can be converted, nitrous oxide, nitrogen gases, amino acids, or DNA, RNA. It can be used in different forms. But if you combine all the forms of nitrogen, then nitrogen is constant. So DNA is not constant. If a DNA is constant, then population cannot be increased. Now, world population is 7.3 billion.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes,
That's why I asked the question.
no. It is not
Thank you,
constant.
sir, for the answers.
When life started from the ocean or water, it is believed that first amino acids were synthesized naturally, and then gradually protein and DNA, RNA, and the life, unicellular life was created. So, and then, huge life forms, huge biodiversity we can see all over the world, and DNA of each organism is different, not the same constant sequence. But water, I told you, water is like an element, because water chemical formula in ice, or in vapor, or in liquid, same chemical formula. So water is a constant, or you can go more, hydrogen and oxygen. total hydrogen and oxygen in the earth is constant. So at elemental level, you can say they are constant. You cannot increase, but they are converted. For example, DNA, RNA in the living organisms, when they die and become biomass, they convert it into humus and other release the element into soluble form and finally uptaken by the plants or other organisms. Microorganisms can break down them and recycle and plant then use nitrogen to make the DNA, and we are getting the plant materials, and uh, we are getting nutrition, all the essential nutrient element required for synthesis of DNA. So our body has some PCR system can synthesize. When a new cell you are growing, new cell is synthesized, new DNA is required. So DNA synthesis is taken place in the body. DNA is not constant. Thank you. Good question. Any more? If no question, then I shall stop here, and I shall share with you this slide today. Hopefully, next lecture, I shall discuss in detail and give you some exercise, mathematical exercise, small mathematical exercise, so that you can understand this concept of stoichiometry very clearly. And today you may check the newspaper, possibly our discovery of new diagnostic, rapid diagnostic kit for wheat blast, which we recently published in a world leading journal, engineering, published, and it is now news in some newspaper recently, maybe Protomalu or Bangladesh Protidin, New Age, you can find the news. So it is a good news that for the first time in this earth, we discovered like a pregnancy strip-like strip to detect the wheat blast, which can be used to detect the wheat blast in asymptomatic plant in the field, because uh, wheat blast symptom usually expresses at the flowering stage. It is neck blast. Vegetative stage, we cannot see the fungus or any symptom. So farmers often use the fungicide and pollute the environment. Every week they use the fungicide. If there is no fungus there, no meaning to use fungicide. Similarly, in our country, 100% of the wheat seeds are treated with fungicides to avoid the risk of wheat blast fungus. But you can check only few seeds or sample of the seeds, representative sample of the seeds, to check whether seed contain the Magnaporte or Triticum fungus or not. If you do not see any trace of fungus, no need to use the fungicide, so you can save money and save the environment. Other point is that wheat is one of the top 3 food crops in the world. So in export import, in the port, airport, always quarantine face serious problem as they have no detection kit. And Bangladesh introduced wheat blast from Brazil because Bangladesh imported huge amount of grain from Brazil. At that time, we had no detection kit to see whether wheat blast fungus is there. Uh, Now our kit can be used worldwide in all the ports and research labs to quickly detect the wheat blast. So it is also related to your environmental biotechnology, because this biotechnology can reduce the application of hazardous fungicide in the earth, and also restrict the spread of this deadly plant fungus. So I try to enjoy the paper. The paper is published in engineering journals. So if you put our name, four members from our team were involved in that research. I was the corresponding author, Dipali, Nuruddin Mahmood, Sanjay Kumar Pal, and total 14 authors in that paper. Some are from Chinese Academy of Science, some from Ohio State University, and some from US Department of Agriculture, USDA. So browse that paper and enjoy our fascinating work, and which is first in this earth, and it is a very, a big accomplishment for Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
স্যার পেপারের নামটা আরেকবার
You just browse the journal in engineering. Engineering is a journal published by LCBR. So if you put rapid wheat blast detection method, then in the Google you can find that paper or news published in English. And if you put দ্রুত সহজে গমের ব্লাস্ট রোগ শনাক্তকরণ বাংলায় যদি ব্রাউজ করো, তাহলে বাংলা নিউজ যেগুলো পাবলিশ হয়েছে, you can get it. I hope you will enjoy. Have a good day.
জি স্যার।
Thank you very much.